Hey, it's me, it's Brian, and it is this week's Thoughtstream. This is going to be a pretty quiet Thoughtstream. I didn't send out a whole lot of pre-emails or anything. I just kind of wanted to get through this one relatively quickly today. As always, if anybody has any questions, send them to help@managedcomics.com, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. But just kind of for today, let's talk about that's good. Yeah, we're going to talk the Managed Comics roadmap. So we're going to start off with a brief development update. We'll talk a little bit about the roadmap. To be totally honest, right now the roadmap is all about getting to the next stage of people using Managed Comics. But we do have kind of some longer term goals and kind of what we'll be working on in October. We're going to officially talk about when we expect to launch today. We're not launching today. That doesn't mean we're just when we will launch. We are going to talk a little bit about October previews because surprise, October previews are up. Apparently that happened on Friday and I missed it somehow. So we'll talk a little bit about that. I really want to talk about Shopify Storefront 2.0 and what that means and kind of what that looks like. Really, really impressed with it. I've built now 2 different stores using Shopify Storefront. And of course, it doesn't work with Managed Comics 2.0. So we've got a little bit of a plan for that. And then, of course, next time on Thoughtstream, if at any point you have a question, please feel free to ask it, and we will get to it in the comments. So quickly, development update. Tons and tons of updates. We have been the team has just nailed it this week in terms of development update stuff. We now have sequential ordering on next issues, which should have been a no-brainer, but of course the data doesn't come in the way that we expected all the time. So we had to do a little bit of work there. We had an issue with trade paperbacks not showing up, specifically around subscriptions. So we fixed that. Searching for customers in a large store was really, really time consuming and terrible. So we fixed that. Some distribution changes with Penguin Random House and the way that their stuff comes in. So we fixed that. We added the ability to delete discount rates because we have tiered discounting. So now you can actually delete any of the individual tiers. I know, but we didn't think to build it at the time. The ability to see your discount rates on your customers and see whether or not those discounts are based on the tier or kind of overridden internally. Custom ID numbers, which we had to do for a few of our imports, including BD Cosmos, who will be getting in probably this next week. Sharing managed comics info to Shopify. So we wanted to share back and forth the status of when somebody is a subscriber or not. ISBN +5. So for Shopify's POS system that actually clicks, we had to add the ability for ISBN +5. However, not all systems use that. So Binder POS, for example, doesn't use ISBN +5. So we just made it a setting in the settings that you can change. Terms of subscription notice when subscribing. So Variant Edition in Alberta, one of their requests was that we have a terms of subscription so that when somebody subscribes, there can be subscription terms. We created some boilerplate stuff, and then we created the ability for you to update that in the settings page. Separate shortages and damages reports. So on the intake, on the when you're bringing your products in, you can now choose whether or not to show whether something is just shorted or was damaged, so that on the end report you can actually kind of break that up. And we also provide the end report broken up by the distributor who provided the product for you. And finally, the last one on that list is to receive the Penguin Random House invoices. So that's a ton of stuff. I've actually gone through and checked all those and tested them. They're all running great. We've got 2 huge updates that are currently like in the very, very final phases, and that I'll be spending probably most of tomorrow testing. So they're the pre-order a single issue, subscribe to series, and massive enhancements to the admin for pre-orders that are in line with this stuff. And then some major enhancements to the My Subscriptions page. Oh man, which I thought I showed in a screen. They're really cool. We've got some really cool changes to the way the My Subscription page looks. So the stuff that's in progress. Oh yeah, okay. This is where I have those changes. This is actually from one of the test sites. So it shows you the subscribe to a series and pre-order cover. So this is actually live data. It's not a mock-up like the other screen was. Really makes it easier to subscribe to a single issue or to a series or to a single issue. Some people have asked if we have the ability to kind of slipstream into a series and like, you know, I only want cover B for this specific issue. We don't have that ability yet. It's something we'll look at, but honestly, it's like super complicated to do that. And one of my fears is that we overbuild solutions for really, really small kind of segments of the customer base. And if I'm wrong on that, by all means, yell at me and tell me I'm crazy. But I'd like to get some of these things out, see how they're used, and then we can kind of refine things. Because like managed comics today is not what managed comics will be in a year. And I'm completely fine with that. We're constantly iterating and developing and changing things. And that is great. The second you stop iterating and changing on your system, that system is no longer an active system. So in software lifecycle, there are basically 4 stages. There's pre-launch, there's development, there's maintenance, and then there's sunset. And so if you're not maintaining a system and building new features, you're in the decline and sunsetting that feature. So yeah, like this will change over time, and it will get better over time because we rely so heavily on our stores to tell us how to make things better. So yeah, that's my little rant on that kind of stuff. Ooh, I got a couple comments here. I've gotten in the wrong place.
I don't know, but I do have a skill you might like.
And of course, Alexa, stop. We got challengers, which I think I might have both Patrick and Dal on here at the same time. Digging the cap shirt. Well, yeah, a little cap and a little Nightwing hoodie. Yeah, absolutely. That's how I roll around here. So this new feature, the subscribe to a single issue cover, does work for both trade paperbacks and for comics going forward. Also, can you flip screens? I just did that. Yeah, good. It's like we're of one mind. Okay, better my subscriptions. So this is the page for my subscriptions. So a couple little notes about this. We combined my subscriptions and pre-orders into one page just because they were kind of crappy before. By combining them now, we have like a little note that this is a pre-order and this is a series. And you'll see that things are red and green. We may have to add a visual indicator to that too. The reason is 10% of all males are red-green colorblind. I know this because I worked for a sports network for a decade and our primary colors were red. So yeah, I've actually gotten that comment in the past from people. So I may want to change that a little bit, although it does say final poll. So the idea is if you delete something after an FOC, you're still going to get it for the next week. If you add something after an FOC, you won't get that next issue. So you may not get the Death of Doctor Strange #1. You may be queued up for #2. However, the store can override any of this. So on the store side, we allow you to actually get in there and change the start date or end date for anything. So if you want to just straight up, cancel his chew, you can totally do that. If you want to make sure that he can get Death of Doctor Strange #1, you can do that. Every day you'll get updates on what has changed in your store. So that really helps you with making decisions like that. Subscriptions admin, work in progress. So we simplified the heck out of this. And this is a screenshot that I just took. I know from talking to Taras last night, this has changed quite a bit. The start date is now like a note on the side. Final poll is just how you end something. And then you can actually, every one of these will have like a link where a modal window will come up and you'll change. So it'll just say like Amazing Spider-Man cover A. It won't say cover A fulfilled with main cover, no yes, because that doesn't really matter to you. You change that when you're actually in the Amazing Spider-Man #74. And this was based on feedback we got from people using the system and that it's a little clunky and not fun. Our big roadmap stuff coming up right now will be to address Shopify Storefront 2.0. We are going to add crowdsourced images to our database. So what you're seeing here is actually a Penguin Random House item that we don't have in our database. So when the first store adds this, they're actually effectively adding it to our database. We get a notice as kind of we get more people using the system. I'll actually hire a dedicated data person to go through this stuff all the time. Right now, it's me or Craig mostly that check this stuff, but we just review it to make sure it's accurate, and then we approve it. Once it's approved, now it's in our database, and anybody can use that item. So one of the things we're going to do is right now, you can't change the images on the individual items when you upload them. So when you bring in your invoice, you can't actually change images and stuff. And if somebody has a better image out there, by all means, we want you to be able to update it. What that does is it triggers a notice for us, and then we approve all those images, and then they're instantly available to all the stores. So I like to say that like all of us together are better than any of us apart. So the more of us that have eyes on these things, the quicker these things are going to get fixed, even quicker than if I was, dedicating a team of data people who would hate their lives because the only thing they would do is scour the data in the world. I know they'd hate their lives because when I have to scour data, I hate my life. So A couple other things we're working on is improving the data fetches for GeekFetch. Right now, everything is manual, so I go out and kind of update GeekFetch data all the time. There's no reason why that couldn't be done by a robot, and it would save me a bunch of time and let me focus on the bigger, more important things. Improving cover ratio data. So we're actually going to manually do the first step of this, which is to review all of the notes that are in the notes and then update the data. There's actually a data summit happening next month, October 14th, with a bunch of people, including Comics Pro, that I'll be at. And one of our big requests is going to be that we need this information in a machine readable format so that we can get this kind of stuff. And then grouping like products, which is a really cool concept of grouping not just like all of the Nightwing t-shirts together, so that you have, because right now, if you were to look into the catalog, it would have like 4 different entries for Nightwing, extra t-shirt. We'd like to get them all together, but then taking that to the next step, which would be all of the Hellfire Gala stuff, or all of the Batman Fear State, and then figuring out where to take that kind of so that we can do a Batman Fear State subscription that if you're already subscribed to Batman, we wouldn't repull Batman for you. Moby once upon a time had a feature like this. We're just going to straight up steal it if I can figure out kind of the mentality behind it. Some longer term projects, we're going to work on the enhanced FOC initial order stuff. So we looked at that a little bit last week. If you go back to last week's Thoughtstream, you'll see kind of me breaking this down. We're doing a lot of thought on how this works and kind of what I think there'll be 2 levels of data for everything. There'll be kind of the at a glance, which you almost see in the screen right here, which is like, what's the title? What's the essential information you need? And then there'll be kind of a expand to see more information. So if you really want to see the, I don't know, paper quality and, you know, all that stuff that's kind of really buried deep. Again, like everything, the idea is to have, how do I word this? Have the immediate data out front, and then have the ability to surface everything that you may possibly want. I'm sure somebody out there makes a decision on ordering based on paper quality. Ratio variance. So right now we don't have a really logical way for adding ratio variance. With Managed Comics 1.0, we did have the ability to basically create anything as an individual product, which I feel like you could do using Shopify. If you really wanted to make a 1 in 250 variant available, you could create that as a pre-order product in Shopify and assign whatever money you want to it. I think what we'll do is create like a set of rules so that you can say a 1 in 10 variant is worth $15. And then maybe even rules around, if I qualify that for this, make it available. If I don't qualify for it, don't make it available. And the ability for you to turn that on and off. Because, I mean, if somebody's willing to pay $1,000 for a 1 in 250 variant, maybe you want to go ahead and get 250 copies of something. I don't know. That's kind of up in the air right now. Improving the special orders and pre-orders. So when I started unpacking Managed Comics 1.0's special orders the other night, it's really good. And actually, I think it's better than our current special order system. So I'd like to steal some of the ideas from that that we had back in the day, specifically around approvals. We had a really good approval system in that one. And then the other thing I'd like to add at some point is the ability for somebody to basically prepay for 50% of their, or whatever percentage you want it to be, of their special order thing. And of course, there'll be bugs as they raise their head, which we're always working on. When are we going to be live? I put this cute little dog to distract you from the terrible news. We keep saying 2 weeks, but bugs keep showing up, and I really, really don't want to go huge until we've gone a week fully bug free. I also really need to see. So we're going to go super slow in the beginning, 5 stores a week, maybe 10 stores a week at some point. But we need to see under load how things react, how the Shopify API works under load, all that good stuff. The good thing is every single store seems to do their pulls at a slightly different time, which I think is going to keep us out of the real bad Shopify problems. I'm completely confident our system can handle whatever we throw at it, because we can just scale that sucker up. That's not the problem. The problems are going to come with how Shopify's interface works with talking to us. We keep finding weird JavaScript errors, which are really hard to troubleshoot because JavaScript is a client-side problem, and we get alerts about server-side issues. So we don't even find out when somebody gets something went wrong because the JavaScript itself fell apart. So yeah, as we get more confident with the errors we're getting in, then I'll feel way more confident getting stuff out. I think the bad thing is you only get one chance at a first impression when people are using a system. And we want that first impression for our system to be like, this is amazing and it changed my life. Not, I hate every time I have to open that stupid program up. We are going wider this week, though. We're adding 5 more stores, and we have now an import-export process for getting people in and out of our system. So that makes me feel very, very confident. Let's talk real quick about October previews. Surprise, the October previews came out on Friday. The October items were up for Managed Comics, I think Monday or Tuesday. I got them up. I would have had them up on Friday, but honestly, didn't even know that the previews came out. I was talking to a friend of mine on Tuesday, and he was like, "Hey, yeah, have you checked out the previews?" No. So yeah, that's a problem. So I got to pay more attention to that. I don't know why my brain had it that this was the previews week, because it's always the last Wednesday of the month. So yeah, the catalog. Sorry, next week. I thought next week was previews week, not this week. Catalog's up for special orders for anybody on Managed Comics Classic. Our new subscriptions will go up tonight for Classic. I have to do it outside of normal business hours because the system is so terribly slow now with the number of subscribers we have, which is one of the main reasons why we went to the system we have now with 2.0. So with 1.0, everybody basically has their own database, which is a terrible idea. Now we share one massive database that whenever changes happen once, they happen everywhere. We used to have to force changes. So if a price changed, we'd force it to all the items. It was terrible. I'm so much happier with the way the system's working. I would like to jump out into a screen. Let me just add something. There we go. I'm going to share a different screen. So I've actually been playing around with Shopify's new 2.0 system. It's incredible. It's so much faster than the old 1.0 system. The builder's better. Creating pages is easier. Well, and it depends on what the thing is. Sorry, just 1 second. I am going to silence put on theater mode. My silly phone. Yeah, so it's way faster. I've found some really, really cool things in terms of like just the way the builder's laid out. So this is a store I built the other day. I'm finally going to get Pete and All New Comics off of WooCommerce and onto Shopify, just because I think it's a way better platform. I've been managing his WooCommerce store I've managed it since 2005, but we went WooCommerce in 2015. And it's just slow and not terribly great. This stuff is just faster and better. So even though he's going to continue using 1.0 for a while, Just this system is way better. We've got all the kind of nice little filtering over here. Plus, I'm going to actually have somebody do some filtering using, like, we have genre, publisher, creators. So I'm going to actually have somebody build me a little bit of a filter over here for more stuff. And then I'll be able to kind of share that with more stores if they use the Expanse theme, which is what this one is. On the back end, the builder is super clean and super easy to use. We can get in there really, really quickly and make changes. I actually like this builder a lot more than the current builder. Even for little things like just changing, the collection that we're going to have on the front page. One of the little tricks I do with newest releases is we will tag the new releases with this week. And then I just change the collection to show that week instead of the previous week. The other way you could do it is by calling it new releases and then going through and just like changing the tag. But I find this a little bit quicker. But super, super quick to build this thing. I think the whole site took me, a couple hours plus images and all that stuff. And then the inevitable ridiculous amount of time that it takes to export from WooCommerce and into Shopify. But yeah, I'm really, really happy with this. Again, we're using all our GeekFetch data for the Shopify data. There was a bunch of products that are like pre-2009 on his store that I had to steal from other sources. But I'm really happy with how this ended up. But yeah, I did the same thing for my Managed Comics example shop. I used the Shopify 2.0 kind of layout for it. It's just so slick and so clean. I'll be honest, 95% of the kind of art of making a good website is the quality of the images you have. So for all new comics, I used quite a few Unsplash images, maple leaves and stuff like that. This is a banner that we had made a couple of years ago that I've repurposed some of the images for. So I think this just makes it look so much better. So if you've got good imagery, you can make the site look a lot better. And then just thinking about kind of your categorization and how you're going to lay things out is always important. That's all I really wanted to say about that kind of stuff. Let me just make sure I'm not forgetting anything. All new Shopify. Yeah. Dal and Patrick, I think you guys might be the only ones live right now. Any questions for me this week? I know I'll hear them on your podcast on, I usually listen to it Saturday or Sunday whenever it gets out on the Patreon. But if you got questions, shoot them to me now and I can get them to you hopefully before you record. In terms of next week, I'd like to do an interview with one of our beta stores, but I'm not sure. I haven't asked anybody yet, so I'll find out if anybody's available for questions. And Patrick says, "Why ruin the surprise?" Patrick, bad news. I don't have any Grimjacks behind me. What I didn't show you though is that these drawers are also all trade paperbacks and hardcovers as well. So there's a few hundred trade paperbacks and comics that I don't have out on display. Those are just the things that I, think will make a good visual background, really. So W. Dal Bush of Challengers Comics in Chicago says, how will generating reorders be handled? Is that through Managed Comics or Stocky? Reorders. So, yeah, it's a good question. So Stocky usually handles most of that stuff, but we should have our own reorder because you'll actually create. You're going to create an order because we have all that data. That's a good question. That's something that will come up as we start building out our initial PRH order. Because ideally, I also want to feed shortages and damages into that system so that you can track that stuff when it comes in. Good question, though. I'm not absolutely positive. Eric says, any chance of adding a bag and board to the customer? Yeah, that was actually something I was looking at this week, is like the ability for you to price out how much a bag and board is and then add that as an option on the customer. Just have to figure out the interface for that, but the logistics behind it are pretty simple. We just add bag and board, and anything that's a comic, we would add, the price of a bag and board. If it's a trade paperback or any other item, we don't add that. The logic is super simple. So it's funny you mentioned that, because I was literally thinking about that this weekend when I was just driving around. Patrick says, love it, custom built. Yeah, I built all this stuff myself, actually, believe it or not. Yeah, that's why when Dal said that on the podcast that those were IKEA, I was so mortally offended. It's not even funny. That's all hand built. It's a combination of MDF and birch plywood that I use for the actual shelves. Stocky already has a feature set to min stock levels, which is why we'd be using it. Managed Comics is going to offer that. We'd use it instead. Yeah, I'm honestly not sure as we get more into that stuff, because a lot of sales data is going to come into come from Managed Comics, I should say, because like all of your subscription information won't actually be on the Shopify side. Your sales tax and everything, but Shopify itself won't know that you sold 5 copies of Batman separately, like as subscription things, than you did as like off the shelf, just because of the way the draft order stuff works. If I'm hoping at some point Shopify will figure out that like we need the ability to create something that is independent of the online store. So ideally, if we could actually have separate line items for the POS versus the online store, then we could have, or even better, just make a draft order the items like kind of a layaway idea. Those items are not available for sale on the store floor, but they don't have that idea yet. So yeah, that's a good question, and we'll kind of keep that in mind as we go on. I think these things will change as we figure out what the needs of folks are. Any other questions for me before we kind of wrap it up? 30 minutes, a tight 30. That's kind of what my goal is for this, is a tight 30 every week. So if we can keep it to about 30 minutes, I think that would be a good thing. But if I don't hear any more questions, again, next week we're going to talk hopefully to one of our users. If we don't, then I'm going to wrangle in either Craig or Taras to talk about, on Craig's side, we'll talk kind of the marketing of Managed Comics and kind of what we see that looking like for stores as well. And we can talk a little bit about some of the features, which actually I was going to bring up. This is kind of cool. I'm really happy with this. This is so on your storefront, on your Managed Comics part of your store, you're going to see we call it a featured, what do I call it? Featured slide. And these are created in our admin system, and then they go out to all the stores. And basically what it does is it's a one-click that takes you to all of your subscriptions. We originally started doing that kind of like allowing stores to do it and not doing a federated one, if you will, like a kind of a one that we all use. And the reason that we changed to this kind of push approach where we actually create them for you was because stores just stopped doing it. Like after a couple of weeks, couple months, they'd get busy with other things and wouldn't do it. So by creating this, what they saw immediately was that more people were actually looking at the new stuff every month. And then we started creating our own email that we would send out on stores' behalf. And stores loved that. So we made that an optional thing that you can or can't send out. We have to figure out how to do that under this system, because my one fear is that some store out there is going to change their URL for what they're managed. Although if you do, I think it would just break the managed comics feed. But being able to do that would allow us to still send out an email on your behalf with direct links into all the new series and new trade paperbacks every month. So that's something we'll definitely be looking into. A couple things from Dal. He says layaway seems awesome. We constantly have subscribers asking to reserve on sale items. Yeah. So it's weird that they don't have even the layaway concept in Shopify, and you would think that would be something, especially with a collectibles product where there's a finite number of them. And Dal also says, please send an email reminder for Thoughtstream. You know what's funny? I set those things up in advance, and I totally forgot to this week because I was so overwhelmed with the catalog, which normally, I normally have everything under control because I have the catalog kind of timing planned out weeks in advance. And so I block time off in my calendar for it. Just having it get dropped on me on Tuesday just threw everything off, and I've been struggling to catch up. But yeah, for sure, I will send out an email reminder. I usually send them out on Friday mornings, and then I'll send out another one, or Thursday mornings, and then I'll send out another one usually half an hour before. So make sure I do that next week. Ooh, layaway has been added to Shopify, so maybe it's already done. Really? That must be new, because I looked into this a couple months ago and there was no way to do it. Interesting. Thanks, Eric. Take a look at that. All right. Well, that does it for this week. Thanks, everyone. And tune in next week. I'll send out an email kind of summarizing this stuff like I always do. And that always generates some new conversations. So thanks again to everyone. And we will talk next week. Same Managed Comics time, same Managed Comics channel. Thanks, guys.